Hi, as you can tell from the title above, we're pregnant. We're actually expecting our third baby. And I'm actually 22 weeks along, so I'm a little behind getting started with these pregnancy vlogs. So today I just want to take the time to get you caught up. I'll cover the first trimester and just go over a little bit of the symptoms and the things that we experienced in the first trimester. First, just a little bit about how we found out that I was pregnant. We weren't planning on having a third child at this point. We had talked about having a third child, and when we talked about it, we thought we're really happy actually where we're at with the ages our children were. They're both going to be 4 and 2 in December, and I felt like it was enough for me to be pouring into them right now, and we thought we weren't completely ruling out having a third child, but we knew that for us it probably was not right now. At least that's what we thought. Obviously, God had other plans. Anyway, I've been needing to get my wisdom teeth out, so we decided to go ahead and schedule my dental surgery. And in the process of doing that, they have you sign all these forms that say, that you can't be pregnant, and yeah. So the day before my surgery, I actually thought I should take a pregnancy test just to make sure. And then I immediately thought, no, you worry about absolutely everything. Everything's okay. You're just worried about this surgery tomorrow. You need to relax. You need to breathe and just be calm. So I did not take the pregnancy test. Looking back, I'm like, that was the Holy Spirit, giving me a prompting that there was something that I needed to be aware of. So we went ahead, we did the surgery, and then I just started having awful nausea. And at first I thought it was a result of the dental surgery, and then I thought, well, you know what, maybe I have a touch of the flu, because it would kind of come and it would kind of go, and I would think I'm getting better. And so there was a period of time where I thought I'm nauseated because of the dental surgery, and then it kind of came back more intense and I thought I had the flu. And then it got to the point where it was just like every night awful nausea, and I started feeling like this is not the flu anymore. There's something more going on here. And so I told Joe, I think we need to go get a pregnancy test. He was like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, I think we really should go get a pregnancy test. I think that goes to show how off of the radar this was for us. We were not planning it. We were totally unprepared. So we actually had to go to the store and buy the pregnancy test, and when we got home, it was kind of late, so I decided not to take it that night. I decided to wait until the morning. So the next morning I got up with Joe. He gets up very early for work. And I went in and I took the test, and sure enough, I was pregnant. And at that point, it had been long enough since the dental surgery, since I'd taken the pregnancy test, that in the back of my mind I was really hoping that I was just early on, and that I was pregnant after the dental surgery. We called the doctor. We got an appointment scheduled because we thought, we don't know how far along we are. Part of me was thinking, how did this happen? Because I'm like really good about knowing when I ovulate, and normally I'm pretty careful. So yeah, there was just like this shocked feeling. But it quickly turned into excitement, because there's just something about having a baby that you just can fall so deeply in love with so quickly. So we were quickly adjusting to the thought of that we're going to have 3 children, that this is going to be our family. It's going to happen sooner than we had anticipated. And we had decided not to tell any family until after our doctor's appointment, just because we thought we needed to give ourselves some time to readjust to this news ourselves. And also we wanted to be able to go to the doctor's appointment and just, know kind of how far along we were, and just that everything was okay before we progressed to telling people. So, there was this time period of a week and a half or so where no one knew that I was pregnant. It was actually kind of very precious. During this time, I have my own business. I sell cleaning supplies, natural cleaning supplies, and So I do these in-home parties, and it was like my busiest month, August or July was. And so I was doing parties. I was exhausted all the time because not only was I pregnant, but I was very, very busy with trying to keep up with the house and the children and then the business. And so I was exhausted. I would definitely put that as one of the #1 pregnancy symptoms. The other symptom that I was very strongly dealing with was nausea. So I would like suck it all up together. I'd go and give my presentation, and normally they're, you know, when I'm gone between 2.5 to 3 hours. And, you know, I'd just kind of keep it together and try to be as quiet as I could, and yet, you know, do my job efficiently. And then I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, I'd fall on the couch, and, you know, if I had to throw up, I would throw up. Yeah, so, and then we also had some other things going on. It was just an extremely busy time. I started noticing that, like when I would go to vacuum the carpet, I was having pain. And that was my first sign that maybe not everything was quite as it should be, because I normally don't treat pregnancy as an illness. I normally try to just maintain my level of activity, and I kept thinking, you know, it shouldn't be this uncomfortable or painful this early on. I had a lot of cramping, but I just wanted to be Superwoman. I wanted to keep going, and so I pretty much I did. And it would have been the day or the night before our doctor's appointment. We had a benefit concert. Looking back, I was kind of crazy, but benefit concert to go to, and I was tired. We just found out our kitten had worms, and so I had been on a frenzy, like cleaning, like deep cleaning the house and disinfecting everything, and yeah, because we'd had the kitten in the house. So I was just like, I'd been mopping the floors. I'd really been working very hard. And trying to do it all as quickly as possible because I did not have much time. And I almost did not go to the concert, but my husband was like, we had this planned already, we have our tickets, let's go, it'll be good for us. And so then of course this concert was late, and I didn't want to be well, no one knew I was pregnant, so I didn't want to like just sit down, and so I was trying to be energetic and involved, and I remember feeling very tired and a couple times just really wanting to sit down. We got home very late that night, fell into bed, and probably around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning I woke up, and there was just that wet sensation like I peed myself. And I flipped on the light, and you know, there was blood. It was bright red blood. I put a pad on, and I just thought, oh, I can't believe it. Not another miscarriage. Yeah, it was very disheartening, but we decided to go ahead and was seeing our doctor the next morning to find out more what was going on, and also just to, yeah, just to hopefully become assured, like, whether this was actually a miscarriage or whether there was something else that could potentially be causing the bleeding. And so we went to our doctor's appointment, and by that time my bleeding had already started slowing down. By the next, that would have been late morning, early afternoon. And the doctor actually said, well, let's just schedule an ultrasound. We need to find out how far along you are anyways, and let's just see what's going on. Because he said, honestly, I don't see that much blood at this point in your cervix. It actually looks like your cervix closed. It's high. It's a good color that shows like that you're definitely pregnant. And he said, at that point it didn't seem like there had been enough blood for it actually to be a miscarriage. And since it was slowing down, he decided, let's just do the ultrasound and go from there. So they scheduled the ultrasound. So I went the following Monday. That would have been a Thursday. So I went the following Monday, and I was very nervous. Went in, explained to the ultrasound technician about the bleeding I'd had, and she put I had to have she asked me how far along I was. I was like, well, maybe about 6 weeks. And so we did a internal ultrasound, and there on the screen was this baby bouncing all over the place. It was just so active, and I just couldn't believe it. It was very happy. I actually have a couple pictures, so hopefully it'll focus and you'll be able to see them. But yeah. But she also said, as she was doing the ultrasound, I can see why you've been having the bleeding. Yeah, she says there's a very good reason for the bleeding you've been having. And when I asked her what that was, she said, well, I can't really discuss that with you. Let me go and get the doctor and see if he has time to go over the results with you. And that made me nervous. Basically, though, when he came in, he said there's a bleed behind the placenta. It's about 6 centimeters. He said you might bleed more. I asked a lot of questions like, is this going to cause my placenta to disattach? Can the placenta reattach? What is this going to do for my baby? I just remember feeling like, oh, here's this perfectly healthy baby, and now you're telling me there's this bleed, and it felt a little overwhelming. And yet the doctor was very calm. He was very positive. He said, you know, there's a possibility that I could go ahead and miscarry. It was just a wait and see at that point. He put me on pelvic rest. He told me to take it easy, not be lifting the children, different things like that. So I went out to my car, and of course I cried. And then I went home, and at this point we had to start at least telling family what was going on. We basically had started telling family when we started bleeding. You know, just that there was a possibility that we were having a miscarriage. So our family that lives close to us knew that. But even though we had planned on announcing the pregnancy after we knew more, we felt like, okay, so we know something, but we don't really know what's going on. So that even though like our family and close friends knew, we decided like not to make a big announcement to just the whole world, just because I didn't want to. I guess what I was hoping is that there would come a point, because he had scheduled another ultrasound in 4 weeks, so I thought in 4 weeks, another thing that I forgot to tell you is I was a lot further along than I thought. I was 10 weeks already. 10 weeks and 3 days. So, yeah. Another shocker of like, wow, when did that happen? So, anyway, we thought, you know, at that point I would still only be 14 weeks. And that we thought if this is going to be okay, we'd rather just be able to say, hey, yay, we're pregnant, and not we're pregnant but, or, you know, just that there was this uncertainty. So we thought we're going to hold off and just wait to, especially like for my grandparents that live away from us and different things like that. I really wanted to just be able to say good news. Yeah, basically we went home. I was doing the pelvic rest. I was trying to take it easy. I still had my children with me. I tried not to lift them. That I found out was pretty impossible with a 20-month-old to completely avoid lifting and, you know, taking care of them. Basically, I sat on the couch a lot. I let them watch a lot of TV and videos, way more than was good for them. Yeah. And actually I started feeling a lot better. The doctor had actually said that the cramping and the pain I'd been experiencing was caused by that bleed, that all the blood there in the uterus was making it very irritated, and so it was causing the pain that I had been experiencing. So like looking back, I really wish I had listened to my body and started taking it easier. I canceled all of my parties for August, just with the knowledge that I needed to pull back a little bit and not be doing quite as much. So yeah, and then that would have been around 10 weeks, and then right at 13 weeks on the dot, I had woken up. I had gotten the kids dressed and ready and gone and sat down on the couch, and we were sitting there playing. A friend had dropped in to visit. My sister-in-law was coming over to help with some cleaning, and I was sitting on the couch and I felt like a little gush, and I thought, well, I better get up and check on that. And sure enough, here there was blood. So I put on a pad. The doctor had said, if you have any more bleeding, call me right away. So I called him, and he said, well, you know what, I'm going to say that I'm going to bank on this being your placenta moving up the uterine wall, and that it's actually uncovering some of that blood, and so some of that blood might be releasing. So let's just sit and wait a little bit. If you feel a pad, call me back. Well, 10 minutes later, I was on the phone with him because, you know, it was just coming in gushes. It was just a gush, and it wasn't just filling the pad. It had soaked through my shorts, and it was going down my legs. I told him, I think I'm hemorrhaging. Actually, just to kind of give you an idea of how much it was gushing, I was sitting on a blanket to catch overflow. And he said, okay, let's get you to the ER. And he later told me that he was pretty sure at that point that it was over. And honestly, I thought so too. So my sister-in-law, she arrived right at that moment. My friend was there to watch the children. I'm still amazed at how perfectly that all worked out. You know, that they were there when that happened. And yeah. So my sister-in-law, she drove me to the ER, and I put on 3 pads for the ride to the ER. I sat on a blanket, and when I stood up to walk into the ER, there was just one gush, and it went through all 3 pads. And so I went in. I told the receptionist that I was bleeding very heavily, and she got me checked in, but they were very busy. They were very full. So they weren't really sure how quickly they were going to be able to get me in, but the nurse that took me to the triage to go ahead and get my blood pressure and pulse and stuff like that, I explained to her a little more how heavily I was bleeding, and that I actually needed to get some new pads. And so she took me back, and she was helping me get that all situated. So she actually saw the amount of blood that there was, and she pretty much went and told the charge nurse, we have to get her a bed now. I was only 13 weeks. They even called up to labor and delivery, which is pretty unheard of, but they were like looking for any bed that they could get me into, which they could not find a bed in labor and delivery because labor and delivery was full. So they actually discharged someone that wasn't very serious so that they could go ahead and get me laying down. And so, of course, all of that took a little bit of time. But anyway, by the time I actually saw the ER doctor, my bleeding was starting to slow down again. So it was about like 2 hours that it literally was just gushing out of me. And then it started slowing. And during this time, I was like cramping. Like, I really thought that this is a miscarriage. Anyway, the doctor, when she came to check me out, she's like, well, actually, there's not as much blood as I thought there was. I was like, you should have been here a half hour earlier. And she said, well, let's get an ultrasound and just check it again. And so they did another ultrasound, and sure enough, there was a baby bouncing around, healthy, happy, a heartbeat, and everything. It was just that at that point we found out it is a subchorionic hemorrhage that was bleeding. A subchorionic hemorrhage is actually a tear in the chorionic layer of the uterus. And the good news was that I don't actually know if this was at this point that this happened, but they did think maybe it was just bleeding out, and like some of the blood that had been trapped behind the placenta was just bleeding out, and that maybe this would actually help the hemorrhage to shrink. And so we thought, well, maybe this is a good thing. The the ER doctor did tell us it's about a 50-50 chance at this point. So yeah, that was pretty much the first trimester. Just to recap, I was bleeding, I was tired, I was nauseated. Oh, and the other symptom that I kind of forgot to mention was that I was the Wicked Witch of the West. I was so irritable. I was just like, arr! My poor husband, he was like, yes, definitely wanting to watch out for me. Anyway, yes, it was a very eventful first trimester, but we really thank God that we made it through it. When I had my doctor's appointment at 14 weeks to follow up after the ER visit with my doctor, that's when he told me he really had felt like we were going to lose the baby, but he said at this point the baby's in there. It's good. You've reached 14 weeks, and reaching 14 weeks is really important because your rate of miscarriage, normally your rate of miscarriage through a normal pregnancy kind of like decreases at 12 weeks, but at 14 weeks it becomes even less. And so even with all the bleeding that I was experiencing, reaching 14 weeks was actually a very positive sign. So, yeah. As far as announcing people, that second bleed kind of like blew my bubble of being able to get to a point of saying to people, yay, we're pregnant and there's not any problems. So at that point, everyone that needed to know that I was pregnant got told, even though I had to say we are pregnant, but there is concern. And that was okay. I still, even to this day, have not announced it on Facebook, not because this baby is not important, but it's, yeah, I guess I'll explain that more in a later video. So yeah, we are pregnant and we're very excited. I'm going to do another video which will have our gender reveal and go over most of our second trimester, and I'll update you on where the subchorionic hemorrhage is now, and I'll give you a belly shot. Yeah, I also want to talk about some pregnancy styles and what you can do to affordably dress your baby bump. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Please subscribe and like this video, and I'll talk to y'all later. Okay, thanks. Bye.